Hello, welcome to Media Snack, live from New York.
And greetings from London.
Good. Right. Growth. Let's talk about growth. Media as the heart of company growth. Actually, let me just say, first off, for those of our friends watching from around the world who are observing Ramadan this month, I think we're 1 week into Ramadan. We wish you Ramadan Mubarak. And thank you for your continued watching. I'm sorry that the show is called Media Snack. It's probably not very appropriate, but we could change the name. Anyway, thank you for all your comments from around the world. Appreciate that, and hope you wish you the best with that. We're talking about growth, which we talk about a lot. Media is the heart of company growth. So let me just kind of give a bit of perspective on where we think about this, and then we're going to dig into it. Because I think if you're a media director or a marketer, actually even a CFO, we're going to kind of touch on some things that the finance part of a company might be thinking about media. You might want to watch this because these are some territories we want to explore. And this is based on lots of consultation and time that we spend with marketing and media leaders. And it's our observation of the way that the media function, the role of the media function has evolved really over the last five or so years, and where we think plays a very important role in the future of business. So businesses want growth. Okay, I think we all agree on that. That's nothing new. But historically, maybe businesses have looked and relied on those, classic playbooks, growth playbooks of, restructuring and right sizing and, automating and all of these kind of things. And maybe the effectiveness of marketing at driving growth has been questionable. And actually, responsibility, we think, largely might lie somewhere with media, because we know that a lot of media dollars get allocated maybe in places which don't drive actual company results, but they may be, as we've said many times over the years, being focused on things that show a good seem to be short-term commercial benefit. Like, I treat media like a cost to be managed downwards, try and find savings rather than think about it as an investment in growth. As we've talked about recently, and we'll link up, I don't know which episode it was recently, where we talked about, actually, we may have hit the bottom. We've finally, the race to the bottom is over, we said. And now more and more companies, thankfully, are starting to think of their media dollars as an investment in growth. They are important because media is typically a really large part of marketing budget, right? It's a really important, if it is a lever, it's a very big lever. So we know that you can't cut your way to growth, and we probably do need to get back to some pretty good old-fashioned values of marketing being a growth driver in companies. Like maybe 50 years ago, that's really what we thought. Not that either of us were around then, but marketing and sales were really drivers of growth of the business. And that spirit has got to come back, not only within companies, but we've got to be reminded that media is a really important component of that. It's typically the largest marketing investment, so it's under scrutiny. We know that media has been seen as a very, very complicated and difficult box over the years. And even for the CMO, it's often a door, the media director's door is not one that you you anticipate or enjoy knocking on, because you get overwhelmed with the complexity of media or intimidated with the complexity of media. So it hasn't been under enough scrutiny. Over the last 5 years, that's changed. And we've referenced Mark Pritchard, but others as well, that have really called out from positions of leadership that we need more visibility. And they've leaned into media, thankfully, which is really good, because they see media is a huge company investment every year, and it needs to be under more scrutiny. We've got more CFOs, more finance, more good procurement leaders really looking and understanding media than ever before. And we see more and more companies seeing media as an engine for growth. Okay, so that's really the introduction for this, is that media is being seen much more importantly, not just as a pivotal marketing discipline, but actually for companies to succeed and grow, they need to be looking at media more than they've ever done before.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was my kind of passionate. It's like we have like we're opening a case here, but. If you've got comments, as always, please leave them down below. This is really important. This is a pivotal kind of narrative that we think, and something that we're going to continue with. for a few months across the year, because as companies come out of that kind of pandemic thinking, all looking for growth, markets will naturally be buoyant. But let's talk about what's going on, because I think you want to touch on competitive dynamics, right? Category competitiveness is really, as a marketer, where you get obsessed about.
Yeah, exactly right. But I mean, you kind of summarized it fairly well. Let me try and dig a little bit kind of deeper. But almost without exception, every conversation we've been having with brands at the moment begins with an articulation of their growth agenda. As more and more businesses accelerate out of the pandemic mode that they've been in, they're obsessing about driving growth for their businesses. And you combine that with a time when media's never been higher on the corporate agenda, and the ability, actually, in many cases, to link business growth with media investment. You combine the two, and you've got essentially a perfect storm for media directors and marketing directors internally. So linking media, or making media the heartbeat of a growth agenda, is, for many businesses, the way that they're approaching marketing now, right? And for these businesses, they typically exhibit two characteristics. The first is that they see media as an investment. They don't see it as a cost, right? So even when procurement leaders are heavily involved in media, for those businesses that see media as an investment, procurement and marketing work beautifully together. These procurement leaders have read Project Spring by the WFA, right? They're buying into that kind of narrative.
Yeah.
And the second thing, which is really important, this is where we often help a lot of our clients, is that they see getting media management right, both internally and externally, as a critical way of delivering competitive advantage. Okay. And those are the ones that are going to win by getting disproportionate value from your media investment.
Yeah.
That is how you're going to drive growth within a highly competitive marketplace. And those businesses that don't, quite frankly, those businesses that ignore the influence of media and don't appreciate how critical it can be as a lever for business growth, frankly, are going to lose, right? So that's kind of where our heads at, and the conversations that we've been having with brands, certainly in the last 18 months, have been so strategically driven, because it is so critical to get media right in order to fulfill these growth agendas that every business has at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And if we look about, across the last few years, we've commented on the fact that, I mean, the good thing is more advertisers are kind of auditing, although it's not technically auditing, but they're holding the spend accountable, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of asking, like, where's our money going? What are we paying for it? Like, how is that versus what we planned? How are we improving our commercial position? How are we saving money? Whatever it is, there's more of that going on. But that's just counting money. I mean, that's important that you do that from a governance and diligence perspective. We're talking about a much bigger, higher narrative for marketing, the role of marketing in driving growth, and actually how important media is as part of that. And that the implications of that are structural as well, because and as you referenced, a lot of the work that we do and that we've done for the last 10 years. I was thinking back the other day, David, when we some early projects we were doing over a decade ago, where we had a headline for a CMO saying every media dollar needs to be disproportionately more effective for you than any other brand in your category.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's a really good North Star, and we think
Ambition.
that's 10 years ago. And it's still true. That's a good way as a CMO to think about this, is how does every dollar work harder than our competitors? Obsess about your category competitive advantage. And there's things that you can do. So one of the first implications is being better at media as a CMO, or if you're a CFO looking at your marketing organization and you see a big media budget in there, you've got to think, well, how can we do better? How you can do better, the first thing is just to cut waste and find new value. Sounds easy. It's not super easy, but you just got to interrogate that. And that's not just looking at the spend and the pricing that you pay, but look at the structure and the capabilities and the resources and the process. And that's what we do. And we tend to kind of dig down deeper into those things and help understand, like, where is money not working as hard as it could be? Then what you do is you cut, and we find it quite hard to quantify this, and I don't think we would even publish it if we quantified it. But it's a good rule of thumb. Somewhere between 10 and 30% of all media budgets are probably being wasted on inefficiencies of those things, either the structure, capabilities, resources or process, either internally within your organization or in a handoff to your external organizations, or within your external agencies or anyone else in the supply chain. There's a lot of money there. So we can identify it. We can find ways to recoup that waste and refocus it. And you can either bring it back as a saving to the business, and then great, you can reinvest that in things which might drive growth, right? We've got clients who say, right, we want to find all that money because we want to reinvest it in creativity because we think that's going to be the driver of growth for our business. Or it could be other brand initiatives. We've got clients that have just overjoyed at some money that comes back to them, and they can get to decide what they want to do with it. And it's all investments in growth. And the CFO and the CMO are high-fiving each other, and it's happy days. So it's worth doing. The numbers are big, and it allows you to invest in things which drive growth. That's a great thing. CFOs and CMOs cannot ignore media. They shouldn't be ignoring media, and they can't be thinking that it's too complex or opaque.
Yeah, you're right.
To really be accountable or positioned for growth. It's too much money. So if you are CMO or CFO and you kind of got that nervousness about media, like, I don't really understand it, I feel stupid, it's not good enough. Like you've got to kind of lean in. And it's incumbent upon the media director and the media agency and people like us, we help translate the complexities of media into things which a CMO and CFO can control, because we want them to lean into these things. It's not good enough for media to be a black box, not good enough. CFOs, we find this is really interesting, really good question from CFOs, asking the media function to account for growth, to actually account for growth planning. And we love this. We love this as a media brief, and we put it in pitches often, this sources of growth analysis, and we ask agency partners and others, to help the CMO and help the CFO identify growth opportunities, because the media function is pretty in tune with the customer behavior, really good at actually looking at the customer journey, because it's important to the media planning exercise. So actually really understanding the customer journey, really understanding segmentation, really understanding buying behaviors. There's a lot of knowledge in the media function, which can be brought much more central to marketing and start to direct marketing's growth agenda. It's really important. We want to see more of that. And then finally, we want CMOs to be asking of their media function. We want the CMO to be demanding of the media director, like, what's next? What else can you do? Because there's so much in media. It touches all these adjacent functions, which we always kind of map out and we list, and there's loads of things. But as a media director, you're kind of spread thin across all these, having to touch all these different adjacent functions internally, from e-commerce, retail, CRM, trade partnerships, integrating with different other creative disciplines. There's a lot. CMO should be demanding of their media org, like, what's next? What are we going to do and what we're not going to do? What do we want to do ourselves and what do we need agencies to do? Be really, really clear on that stuff. So we're packing a lot in here. We're going to transcribe this, I think, and kind of share out some notes. So, but just in terms of some of the things that marketers could be doing. So if you're a CFO or CMO watching, we know they do watch, what should they be doing?
Well, I love this topic, by the way, because in my past, when I was working on the brand side, both of those brands that I worked for, both Coca-Cola and Nike, epitomized brands that saw media as a lever for growth, that had media at the very heart of their growth agendas. And so this is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And I think the first thing is a media director or as a CMO that is championing a media function, you have to be brave. You have to be brave and accept responsibility and accountability that goes with kind of linking media or the discipline of media as a critical function within your growth agenda. So you've got to lean into it and you've got to be brave. That's the first thing. The second thing is you've got to try and inspire your internal stakeholders around the opportunities of media. As you said earlier on, so many marketers are so intimidated by the language, the nonsense that we've created around media, and the negativity that's often encumbers good media practice, discounts and rebates and all that stuff that we're well aware of. But that's created an environment of intimidation within marketeers. They don't understand it. They don't understand what we're talking about most of the time. And I think that if we can dispel that and simplify the language and bring inspiration around the opportunities of media, then more stakeholders internally will kind of lean in. That's the second thing. The third thing, and we've talked about this in the past as well, is understand where you are. Do a diagnostic, a simple diagnostic to understand how good or bad perhaps you are in key elements of media. Now that's your baseline. Once you've understood how good you are at media management, internally and externally, you can then begin to start developing strategies for improvement. And don't be afraid to learn from other brands. There are some very smart, progressive businesses out there that have made many mistakes and have gone on this journey already. So learn from them. The WFA, ISBA, the ANA have these magical forums where you get to speak to peers and understand the journey that they've gone, so that you can perhaps fast track some of the strategies that you've got yourself. And the other thing is break down silos internally. So don't allow adjacent functions to operate independently. You as a media leader or as a marketing leader, you've got to be the bigger person within the structure. Bring them in, make them feel inclusive of the organization, and share best practice. And finally, I just think that you've got to continually champion the narrative of being a lever for growth. You've got to champion the narrative internally that media is about investment and is about driving business outcomes and driving business growth. Don't allow yourself to be seduced by the easy areas of media, which are around price and cost and discounts. Champion the positive, the more progressive attitude towards media, and as I said, kind of really lean into the opportunity and the accountability of media. Yeah,
it's good. I mean, we see it a lot. I think this is a big moment. It feels like a good, exciting moment for the media function. I'm excited. And I feel like even though we've been talking about this stuff for a lot, we're feeling a groundswell. I think we're feeling the CMO and CFO putting their marketing organizations under pressure in the right way, and seeing that media is now something that could be not just helpful for that growth, but probably quite pivotal, which is why we said that this is at the heart of marketing success and company growth. Because actually, if we were building companies right now, we'd probably build them around the media function. It's not the media buying function, but it's the idea of this is where we connect with our customers, and this is how we behave in the world. Mm-hmm. Coming years are going to see more of that, more media at the heart of new growth for companies all over the world, and we're delighted to be a small part of that, hopefully. But it needs organizing. So if you as David said, if this is stuff that you want to do, it needs a plan. You can check out, if you go to Nadi, if you can throw up the URL, hopefully we can do that. idcomms.com/growth is a toolkit, what we call our growth toolkit. If you're a media director and you want to know where to start with a diagnostic and the peer benchmarking and try and building an operating model for media. Advocate its role for growth within the marketing organization. Go check out the toolkit on that link. And we'll link to that down below as well. And also, last year we did a whole bunch of previous episodes around the growth toolkit. That's evolved. Our thinking has evolved on that, and more work that we've done with leading advertisers in this space to kind of get them to that position as well. So we're in the next coming weeks, we will be updating our view on how you position media as the heart of company growth. We know there's a lot of viewers each week. We have a lot of subscribers, but we also have a lot of viewers that are not subscribers. So if you are a viewer and you're not subscribed, just click to subscribe, then you'll be updated with and alerted when we do post these episodes. We go live every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. UK, and around the world, and we'd love to have you join us every week. And please keep the questions coming. We're probably out of time for questions, but they're mostly good comments. So I'm glad that we're hitting a nerve. We've got some good positive comments in the show. Thank you. But that's it for this week. Beginning of really media being the heart of growth. Keep with us on next episodes. Please subscribe and join us next week.
See you next time.